Posted by you/Swiggitywig. I, 30F, and my father, 64M, have historically had a rocky relationship. My parents divorced when I was 5, and he married the woman he cheated on my mother with. I was an only child, while she had 4 kids from a previous marriage. During my childhood, most of the time allocated to my father in the divorce was actually spent with my paternal grandparents. Every 2 weeks and 42 days in the summer, I would visit them in a different state. I cherished my time with them, and they always stood up for me. There was tension early on in my dad's new marriage when my stepmom demanded that my grandparents go back to the store one Christmas and buy an equal number of gifts for all her children, even taking some from me to give to her youngest. Many times, I would sit on my mom's sofa waiting for my dad to pick me up, only to find out later that he was on family vacations with his new family. I could spend all day telling Cinderella stories, but I need to stay focused. My grandparents picked up the slack. We spent summers learning how to make baskets, gardening, camping, and doing various activities. Their home became a second home to me. When I was 13, I went to live with my dad after some methodical brainwashing, and from then on, I rarely saw my grandparents. My grandmother would call, but my dad and stepmom would ignore it. It broke my heart to see her name on the caller ID, knowing they were just on the other line but refusing to let me answer. They wouldn't allow me to speak to her unless I sat at a table with them while on the call, making it an uncomfortable and controlled situation. Fast forward to the summer of my freshman year, we visited my dad's side of the family. On the last night, my aunt and uncle, who lived next door, asked if I could stay the night with my cousins. My stepmother wanted her youngest daughter to be included, but they declined because my stepsister had a reputation for stealing. A fight broke out in the front yard, escalating into physical altercations. My stepmother shoved my 74-year-old grandfather to the ground. He had a hip replacement in the 90s and already walked with difficulty. I was utterly terrified and distraught. As the chaos unfolded, I packed my belongings because they said we were leaving. That night, I vowed it would be the last straw, and I would never forgive them. We missed my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary because my stepmom was still upset about what his family did to her that night. The next spring, my grandfather had a stroke, and he was never the same. The man who helped raise me in the face of my dad's shortcomings no longer remembered my name. He passed away in 2014. When I turned 18, I left home to go to college, where I met my husband. He has been my rock, especially when my dad throws fits for not getting his way, as he has in recent years. My husband has shown me nothing but unconditional love and support and has been the father to our child that mine could never manage to be. I go no contact with my dad every couple of years due to his behavior. There's an old saying that time heals all wounds, but I don't believe that to always be true. Despite everything, I maintained a relationship with my grandmother until her passing in December. She was cheeky and left us notes to find after her death. This woman never forgot a slight, and that was reflected in her will. I inherited the house, which had been deeded to me since 2001. My dad knew they would give it to me, but I think he genuinely believed he had a chance of fighting me for it. Since 2012, my dad and stepmom have been living in an RV that's now falling apart. He's retired military but has no savings. Right after the funeral, he stashed his belongings in the closets of my grandparents' home. I discovered this after changing the locks and installing cameras for security since I live out of state and plan to move into my childhood home after selling my current house. I put his belongings, along with what he was owed, in storage, and my uncle gave him the keys. Upon learning this, my dad became furious. My step-siblings have been reaching out, calling me heartless for keeping him out of his parents' home. He called me in tears, but I coldly told him that if his parents had wanted him to have the house, they would have left it to him. I also pointed out that he should have treated his parents better when they were alive. I have the deed in my hands, and there's nothing he can do about it. The estate is almost settled, and the land he does get will also have my name on the deed. I would much rather share my childhood home with my daughter, filled with all the whimsical memories it holds, even if it means my dad ends up homeless. Up in the comments. 3 out of my 4 step-siblings are on welfare, and between all 4 of them, they have 12 children. They already have too many kids to take care of. My dad and stepmom have spent a lot of money supporting my stepsisters over the last 2 decades, which has likely contributed to their current financial state. Update 11 months later. I promised an update, and it's taken me some time to sit down and gather my thoughts, to really take in the reality of my situation. It's taken me 31 years to finally see beyond the rose-tinted glasses I had on when it came to my relationship with my father. Quick recap to catch you up on the events that have transpired since I last posted. I inherited my grandparents' home. My father and stepmother wanted to move in, and I said no. My dad then decided to leave my stepmother and reconcile with me, but he wanted to temporarily move in with us. We also said no. He insisted on helping us move, but we ultimately refused. We are essentially estranged, and he has never truly been a parent to me. He has always chosen to love and bond with my 3 stepsisters and their children over his only child and grandchild. I had previously entertained the idea of reconciliation, but I was strongly dissuaded by both my extended family and Reddit. A week before the move, my dad did come to Kentucky and left my stepmom, he had said he would. However, the way he did it was cowardly. While she was doing laundry on their last day in Texas at their RV, he got into her vehicle and left, driving back to Georgia and leaving her without transportation. Her children are furious. Once he got to their RV in Georgia, he parked the car, packed up his truck and trailer, and headed to Kentucky. He spent a week here on his property, which is next to my inherited home. He was essentially camping in a small trailer he uses to haul things for flea markets. He asked if he could use my water hose to shower, and I agreed, thinking, what could it hurt, since I had cameras outside? Well, here's where I was wrong. I got a call from him saying, water is pouring from under the house. I told him to shut the water off immediately. The house has been having leaks since I took possession, as it has 60-year-old plumbing that will be replaced once I sell my home. I had my uncle come by to confirm the issue, and then I scheduled a plumber to assess what needed to be done. This all happened just 5 days before we were set to arrive with a moving truck from Florida to Kentucky. It turned out that a pipe had split under the sink, and the water heater had busted during the winter. During this time, a storm came through, and the power went out. My dad found a key I had left in a flower pot for the plumber and entered my home. When we arrived, he told us he had sprayed the yard for ticks, done pest control, and also cleaned and sprayed for pests inside the home. I was livid. However, I didn't react angrily because, at the time, it felt strange. I started questioning whether I was wrong and if he was actually trying to be a father to me after all these years. So, I let it go. That illusion has since faded. Since we moved here in mid-June, I've discovered that my dad has been stealing from us. Of course, he's denied everything. He removed tape from an old chimney hole, likely looking for money, and stole green dishware, which he put on consignment both in town and at another local place 40 minutes away. Whenever we have a subcontractor out to give bids for the remodel, he shows up uninvited and tries to take over the situation. Recently, he spoke to me like I was stupid in front of my husband. That didn't go over well. My husband, who is typically very docile, had finally had enough and spoke up. He told my dad to mind his own business and to be respectful to his wife. My dad didn't take kindly to that. He's now staying with one of his cousins in an RV and is still moving forward with his plans to put a tiny home on the land nestled between my uncle's place and mine. My extended family tends to avoid him like the plague, despite his repeated efforts to be included. He even showed up at their home on the 4th of July with a lawn chair to watch fireworks, uninvited, and they didn't ask him to leave. In July, we noticed that my dad had tampered with the propane heater. The pilot light was off, and the dial had been moved to 1, which is on the opposite side of the dial from the pilot setting. Whether it was incompetence or intentional, it felt like he was toying with our lives, my daughter's life included. Naturally, he denied any involvement. It feels like we're all living in fear of his retaliation. My husband, however, has no such fears and keeps threatening to go to the consignment store where my stolen glassware is being sold and make a scene. Honestly, I'm at the point where I'm just going to let my husband handle him. I'm no longer emotionally exhausted, just annoyed. My dad still shows up randomly with food, which I immediately throw away. The last time, he left a note on it for my daughter. I wish I had a happier update, but this is the reality. We close on the sale of our home next week and will start remodeling soon. I've informed the contractors about the situation and made it clear that my dad is not allowed on the property. I feel bad for dragging them into this, but I'm also worried he might vandalize the house my grandparents left me while we're in our rental. If I end up as a news story, know it's not a mystery, and you'll know exactly who is responsible.